Seireitei, a Bleach fandom community podcast brought to you by Witch Burnings, a super fun viewing experience for the whole family to enjoy. My name is Lethan, and today I am joined by Shiki
Heyo.
and Naomi.
Hiya.
And today's episode is going to be a little bit different because we are actually talking about Burn the Witch and not Bleach. So, for those of you out there who are maybe a little bit unfamiliar, Burn the Witch was released in sort of three parts on Crunchyroll, which is what we did a viewing party for. But I do believe it's somewhere in Japan or in some places in Japan it was released all together. The three episodes were together as a quote unquote movie. So, we're not going to be doing any episode recaps because it feels weird to split them all up when we're just going to talk about them all as one giant unit. If you have not watched it yet, big massive spoilers ahead to be shouted out here. Please make sure that you pause the podcast, head on over, watch that first, then come back and we will discuss. That is your spoiler warning. How are you guys doing?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Good, yeah, good. Naomi, how are you?
Yeah, I'm doing great. It's good.
Smashing! Cool. Well, I tell you what then, guys, let's just jump straight into discussion because, oh my god, have we got so much stuff to cover.
Oh, it's
Who's
so
wanting to...
content heavy.
It's so much. There's so much. I was sitting, I've got pages and pages of notes here. So who's want to take us away with something?
Well, if you've got pages and pages, what's the first thing on your list?
Oh my god, right, okay. So obviously this is very fairy tale heavy, the lore on
hmm
this, right? It's
Yeah.
very much based on German fairy tales from what we can see. I loved the opening. That fairy tales are bullshit intro. I was straight away, I was like,
It's like,
okay, I am
yes.
invested. Yeah, yeah. I'm invested in this angsty little character that's just appeared on screen. The first watch through that we did, I'll admit I missed so much, mostly because my internet was being a piece of not very good stuff. But the second watch through and by the third one, I'd picked up a lot more. So there's man, we get. I think one of the things I do want to talk about was it came up saying wing bind instead of like when I saw the WBs appearing on the screen around the characters, like when we were getting introduced to the characters and it was giving you, WB, umbrella, level, whatever, student, teacher, whatever it was
Mhm.
saying. It stood for wing bind instead of West Branch. I was a bit upset about that.
Mm. Was that a
It does
difference between the manga and the anime?
no, but it does stand for Western Branch as well because of the sign at the end.
Yeah,
hmm
that's what I was thinking. I just
But
assumed it was always going to stand for that, I think.
yeah, I had the same thought as you. I watched it and I was like, oh yeah, Western Branch. And then it wasn't, and I was like, oh, now I feel like an idiot.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened to me. First watch through, I was like, oh, West Branch, cool. No, no.
No,
Wing bind. What
winged
does
mind.
wing bind even mean?
I think that's just like the name of the organization, sort of like the Gote 13 captains. It's just the overall branching organization that they're part of.
That's what
Yeah.
I thought as well. That was my thinking too. Because we get introduced to so many characters. So
Yes,
many characters.
I feel like I can watch this thing like 10 times and I'll always be finding something new.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've got like for me, I was like the second watch through, I was determined to find out the band name because it's not super obvious in the first watch through what the band was called that Ninny is part of
hmm
in front London. But it's called Cecile Die Twice is the name of the band. So I got
hmm
that in the second watch through. Um, but yeah, so it's like they're living two lives, isn't it? In this world, you have front London, which looks slightly different as well. I believe. I'm pretty sure. Because
Yeah,
if
I
so,
think
then
so.
Big Ben has big mistakes on it in reverse London. But I do believe there's some slight differences between the two worlds. So these characters are effectively living double lives.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, one of them's only in high school, so she's still, and she's 17 years old, so she's still in it says second year of high school, so it's still got the Japanese way of doing the schooling system and not the British way of doing the schooling system.
Right, okay.
Hmm.
So she's 17 and right, is that Ninny? Or was
Niha,
that Noel? All
that's
right, Niha.
Noel.
Right, gotcha, gotcha. Awesome. One thing I did notice though is these characters do not have your stereotypical British names. They definitely have either well, they're not Japanese names either, apart from the little dog thing. Osushi.
Yeah.
Well, apparently, Noel is a popular girl's name in Japan, according to Noel herself.
I wonder if that's more of like a what a Japanese person thinks is a popular name in the UK.
I thought maybe that was what was happening because I have seen, so I'm not without giving a name away of the author or anything. I read an author's piece of work that was from America. They'd never been to Scotland. It was set in Scotland, and they named one of their characters Torquil. And I'm
Mm,
like, when you look it up, it is a Scottish name, but it's a Scottish name that was used like 3,000 years ago. Like, we don't have people called that here anymore. And I was wondering, maybe these names do have ties to Britain at some point in their history, but they're not common names.
Which makes me wonder how much like research um, they did into the UK, especially like the London area when they were writing this.
Well, that brings me to some interesting points because I noted three mistakes. Uh, but can I just say though, like before I go into these mistakes, because I do not want to feel like I am shitting on this was done so well. And
Mm.
Naomi, I don't know what your thoughts are on it. Have you been to London?
I have, yeah.
What did you think about the look and the aesthetic?
It was so good. I remember sitting there and going, "Oh, look, there's the gherkin," and it's just like the skyline. It's noticeably London, but you would need to know London to really pick at the little details,
Yeah,
I think. Yeah.
it's definitely set in Britain. There's one scene in particular for me where Osushi is dragging Balgo through the streets, and I had to pause it on a pub, and the pub was called Number 13, and then I think it was Black Bell, Number 13 Black Bell, and then Number 13 at the end. And I wasn't sure if that little Number 13 was a call out to like the Gotai 13, just like a little hat nod to the Gotai 13 potentially, but that pub
Mm.
looked amazing. It looked so good. Um, Genuinely, and it had like the sign that says live sports show in here and everything outside it. I was like, wow, they got that spot on. That's like something you would see if you were walking down the streets of Edinburgh. Easy.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. Naomi, did you spot any mistakes though?
Um, not. No, I don't think I did actually.
So I spotted three. One of them probably a bit bigger than the other, and I guess I don't know if it's just Japan. It could be argued when this was set, but I want to counter that argument. So there was an ashtray in the office, and the
Mm.
janitor-looking boss was smoking inside. That does not happen in the UK. That was eradicated 13 years ago in the UK. There was a ban put in
Mm.
for smoking in offices and places of employment. I haven't seen an ashtray in about 20 years, I swear to God. Um, so that was one mistake I noticed. But then it could be argued, well, maybe this was set before then, but Ninny's phone at the beginning would make me suggest or make me feel like the technology used in the phones that we see, it's definitely set more modern time.
I think we
Well,
have had official confirmation that it is set 10 years after the epilogue of Bleach.
Right.
mm.
So what time frame would that sort of put us in? Anybody any ideas where the epilogue of Bleach was set?
So if the main show was round about the year 2000 mark, so it'll be 2020. I'd say this is Burn the
Oh,
Witches.
there we go. Yeah, so about our year right now. So yeah, so
Yeah.
no smoking in offices. That was one thing that was incorrect. Another small niggly thing that I'm tying into that as well is that in his office he had a picture like a poster of a bikini clad woman behind his office chair. That probably, and maybe that's something that might happen elsewhere, but I think in places of employment, especially if you're a male superior looking after younger girls, that would be straight to HR. That would not be appropriate thing to
Yeah.
have in the workroom at all.
Yeah, I imagine at least not even in the US, we wouldn't have like model agencies that did bikini stuff. If you went to the manager's room, I don't think you would even see anything like that there because it's such like a conscious thing that people intentionally try to avoid to keep it professional.
Yes, it's not a professional thing by any means. You would maybe have like some posters of like be your best or something
Mhm.
in an office space, but that would not be allowed. Right. The other thing I noticed was the at one point the same janitor gentleman flashes them money. and the money is coloured a lilac-y purple colour, which should be a £20 note, an English £20 note, but it was marked as a £10 note. Very small, but the £10 notes in the UK are like a brownish colour. They're like a tanny beige. That was very minuscule. And then the other thing that I thought was really funny, and I had to run past several of my London friends, the dragon steps on a fire hydrant, an American fire hydrant. That they don't exist in the UK. Our fire hydrants are like brown coverings that go over the ground, and then you have to like lift them up to get under the ground, and you put your pump down into the water supply underneath the streets. There are some fire hydrants in London, but they do not look like the one did in the manga or anime. Well, I only watched the anime, so I can only confirm the
I'm gonna
anime.
have to look. I'm gonna have to like look to see what those look like then, because that
They're
sounds
like
interesting.
3-tier. They're like 3-tier, and they've got like openings all the way around them. They've got chains hanging from them, and I think they're most commonly found outside of the emergency buildings because
Hmm.
most of the fire hydrants are underground. We don't have, because when I went to Boston, when I went to America for the first time, the first thing I did was take a picture of a fire hydrant because we just don't have them in the UK. I was so excited to see one. But that was it. Those were the only mistakes I saw, which is really good considering we could have seen a lot more.
hmm
Yeah. Because there were so many little details that they've added in
Mhm.
there. Like the whole
Mhm.
fact that there was a BBC.
Oh my god, I love that so much. The fact that those girls were complaining about the BBC, I was like, oh, get it, girls. Like, they're
Yeah.
such a piece of fucking shit.
And for those of you who don't know, BBC stands for the British Broadcasting Company, and it's literally the biggest TV company that the UK has.
The
And they
biggest
broadcast
bullshit
everything.
company.
Yeah.
They do, you're right. They broadcast everything, and they just lie through their teeth half the time. I think though everywhere in the world has a television company that pretends to be news, but they just do everything for
Oh
money.
yes, we have every news station we have in America is exactly like that. You can only rely on local news to be even remotely accurate.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So I feel like what they were saying about it was like almost 100% spot on, where they were like, I wish they wouldn't say that. I wish they would let us say that. And I'm like, oh my God, yes. Yes.
The one thing that I noticed was a callback to something you pointed out in the manga for Bleach before, Lethan.
Mhm.
The achievement points. Because if I recall,
Mhm.
doesn't Urahara give Rukia points for slaying hollows in the manga?
Well done. Well remembered. I'd
Oh,
completely forgotten
yeah.
about that, but you're spot on. He does it, and he does it. He collects it through the phones as well.
So that's
Mhm.
like, that brought up to my memories, like, I'm wondering if there was any association between that, do you think?
Oh yeah. I wonder if this is us seeing the future of how the Soul Society hollow slaying will go out in the world of the living, right? That's a
Ooh,
good
watch it have
point.
been like an initiative started by Urahara that was adopted by the West Branch.
Maybe. That wouldn't
Mm.
surprise me. I reckon the West Branch probably. I'm sure people in the West Branch have contacts with, like, the Japanese branch, right?
hmm
So
Yeah.
they'll be using a lot, I'm sure, of their findings.
Yeah.
That's a good call. I was saving all my best ones for last, and Shiki comes in with a fucking cracker. Holy shit, Shiki! I'm like coming in nice and gentle, and then Shiki's like, "Fucking take that, boom." Naomi, what are you following up then?
Um, did you notice how on the back of everybody's kind of like the mantles or like Balgo's jacket, they had symbols?
Yes, well
yes,
spotted.
yes.
This was going to be one of my discussion points. Go for it, Naomi. Go for it.
So these symbols are actually the Zodiac symbols.
Well done.
hmm
And they've each division of the wingbind has its own correlation to a Zodiac symbol.
Mhm.
So Pipers, I believe, are Virgo.
Are they Virgo or are they Aries? I've got it written down in my note as
I think that's
Aries.
Aries.
Yeah.
Yes, I think you might be right there. And because it looks like a V, I'm getting confused.
It's like it was like a thing that comes up and then splits, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that was
Um,
Aries.
that was, and then I believe I'm gonna get them all wrong, and you guys are just gonna correct me.
We've got them in our notes. We're all good. Go for it.
But Sullivan Squire, the person with the kind of asymmetrical black cut,
Yep.
they've got Scorpio on the back of
Well
theirs,
done. Well done.
Mhm.
That was the one I noticed right away. Yeah.
and Balgo's got Taurus. And the only reason why I knew them all was from Sailor Moon. Like, ooh.
Oh, score, well done. I wonder, that's interesting. Maybe there was a wee nod there to some of that. But yeah, no, well spotted that because I saw the M on the back of Sullivan Squire's top when she was walking the first watch through. I noticed it. I was like, I have seen that symbol before. Where have I seen that before? And it was cutting me up. And then it wasn't until the next day when I was speaking to a few people that I was like, it's Scorpio.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And then I
I
had
didn't notice
to.
it until my second watch through. I was like, wait, those are Zodiac symbols.
So there was only like I think I counted. Was there only like 8 seats at that round table? Wasn't there? I think was that about right?
I
Was
think
that
so.
about 7? But there was an empty seat as well. Or
Yeah.
yeah, so there's 8 seats at that round table.
1,
So
2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, 8.
so makes me wonder then if each of them represent a zodiac sign. Because we only get the names or the titles of a few of the sort of quote unquote squads, don't we? We get
Yeah.
the Bruno is the director of the Inks.
Yeah.
And then I'm guessing, this is a total guess, but I was going to guess that Trombone was the director of the Pipers because his name had a pipe in it when he was being introduced. And
Yep.
then we see that very same pipe being given to Balgo later that turns into a sword for some reason. Like the sorting hat, only a Gryffindor could pull the true sword out of the hat. So I thought maybe he was tied into the Pipers.
You'd be
Question mark?
correct. I've
Yeah.
got
think so.
there's a page on the manga and it actually tells you which department they all belong to.
Oh, good, because we didn't get
Oh,
that in
okay.
the anime. So can you run us through that, Naomi?
Yep. So we've got Bruno, who, as you said, is the Inks, which is the Magic Circle Core. You've Roy B. Dipper, who is the Incantation Core, also known as Anthems. You've got, I'm just going to say their last name, Malieve. So that was the female with the blonde hair. And she was the Liturgy Core, called Sacreds. Trombone is the Minstrel Core, Pipers, so you were right there. Sullivan is Tactical, Sabers. Saka Rin, who was the one who was missing, is Development Core, Patchworks.
Okay.
Harry Shack is the one blowing bubblegum. He's Accounting, also known as Billionaires. And then you've got Wolfgang, the old guy who kind of gave off Yama vibes, is Personal Affairs, Divine Punishment, also known as Gallows.
Ooh, divine punishment. So that would explain why Bruno was going to speak to him about the taking away the bounty on Balgo's head at the end. Then that would make sense, right? If that's what he's in charge of. Wow. And he does call them in the anime. I have got it written down and underlined where he says, so this is Old Man Wolfie. He says he has been a topic of countless discussions within our squad. So these are called squads, similar to the Gotai 13. And then he goes on to mention in the month since he became a dragonclad. So we don't get a lot of information as to what a dragonclad is. But he's only been a dragon. I took that as it could have been a mistranslation, but I took that as he's only been a dragonclad for like a month. So they're not born, or they created, or they made.
They are. I have all the information because it's
Oh
in
my
the
god!
manga.
Right, okay, I need to read the manga clearly because
You
there's
do.
obviously right. I tell you what, Naomi, do you want to just take us through all the differences then that you've noticed because you've probably clearly got pages of these notes.
Yes.
Go for
Okay.
it. Go for it.
So when I read the manga, I actually went back and read the one shot as well because these 4 chapters of the manga actually make references to what happened in the one shot as well. Because the one shot is where Balgo becomes a dragonclad.
Oh.
So a few small differences is that what I find really funny, the anime calls the Kido spells that they use magic numbers. Whereas in the manga, they're just simply spells, which doesn't roll off the tongue as much. I quite prefer magic numbers.
Let's face it, they're Kido, but continue.
Yeah, exactly. So basically, a dragonclad, everybody has a level of dragon toxins. So the little phone that the guy had to lick to see what his levels were, that's basically checking for dragon toxins.
And it came up with
Dragons,
0.3 for his, didn't it? It was a
it
low
was,
number.
yeah.
Right.
So dragons are contagious, and with prolonged contact, these dragon toxins in a human rise. And when they become over a certain threshold, that's when you become a dragonclad. And dragonclads are dangerous and shouldn't be allowed to live because they attract dragons. So dragons are attracted to the dragon toxins in the dragonclads, which is why they tend to not allow dragonclads, because that would just mean the whole city is just overrun with dragons all the time.
Oh, this makes so much more sense now. Because I'm like, why would they like kill somebody or imprison somebody for 100 years for being in contact with a dragon when it wasn't their fault? But now I'm getting it.
But here's
Mhm.
the thing: is like if they don't want dragonclads because of that obvious issue, then why did they say Balgo was immune from that law? Was it or something like that?
He was unique in the sense that the dragon that he's got, Osushi, he found in Front London.
Mm.
And there was this whole scene with his best friend and another dragon. His best friend, Selby, died at the age of 7, so 10 years ago from when the one shot was. And at that time, this other dragon inhabited Selby's body and lived as Selby for 10 years.
Oh,
That's how Balgo got his dragonclad situation, because this other dragon was posing as his best friend for 10 years. And so because of that, he kind of got not an immunity to it, but it was, I think, in a sense, there was some kind of empathy because it was his best friend who had just been like possessed by this dragon. And
Wow. Empathy? Wow. Okay, so already we're a little bit better than the Gotai 13, but continue.
yeah, and so basically it's the fact that this dragon just disguised himself, and he actually says donned his corpse. A little bit
Oh,
morbid,
God.
but it kind of makes you wonder what dragons actually are.
Yeah.
yeah. I imagine that dark dragon would have been very happy back during the plague years.
Hmm.
Man. Right.
Wow.
That's already like answered a whole bunch of the questions I had written down on my page. I'm like, why? Why this?
Okay.
Why that? Why? Right. I've got a question for you, Naomi. Did we discover anything to do with Ninny and Noel's like heritage, like where their parents are or their backstory?
No,
Okay.
the only thing we kind of get alludes to, I think it's Bruno who says, um, is talking about Macy, and he's like, "Oh, she would have found herself to reverse London just like you two did."
Yeah, that's what I picked that one up as well. I picked that line up, and
Hmm.
that's all I've got. And the reason why is because I know I mentioned it. I think I mentioned it before we started the podcast episode, but there was a monologue at the end of the third part, I guess, the third episode, quote unquote. But towards the end when they're fighting Cinderella, there's a whole monologue that Ninny goes into, and I think I've got an idea of what she's talking about, but I've also just not got a clue. So I'm not sure if maybe there was something covered off in the manga that would answer what that monologue was even on about. Let me find the
Mm.
monologue because I took note of it. It was us in the chat last night, and I'm going, "What does this mean?" Right. So the monologue goes, and I don't believe for a second that she's just talking about the dragon. I feel like there's much more to it. Just because when the episode or when the series first started, she says fairy tales are such bullshit. That's like the intro. So there's something going on here. There's something that's happened to her that makes her not believe in happy endings. That's where I'm going with this. So her monologue goes, no matter how much you love them, there are times you just can't get through to them. How long are you going to keep this up? She'll give you strength, she'll take you somewhere special. You're not in a damn fairy tale. Fairy tales are such bullshit. What's the point when the spell breaks in the middle of it all? It was inevitable because you broke your promise or time ran out, so what can you do? Inevitable, my ass. It's all so stupid. You and everyone else have no idea why the spell really breaks. The reason the spell breaks so randomly is because it wasn't your own doing. Macy, we're supposed to be the ones casting the spells. That was her monologue.
Mm. The way that's an
Okay.
interesting.
Go for it, Shiki.
I was gonna say, just listening to it, and because I could not remember the monologue on the first view, but listening to it from you, it sounds like she relied too much on someone in her past life when she was doing whatever before this. And I guess she might have been let down from the sounds of it, and she wants to make her own life through her own power, because relying on someone else only means that you're going to be left to disappointment when they inevitably fail you.
Yeah, that's what I'm reading, and there were two ways I wanted to go with this. Number one, I feel like, and again, Naomi can jump in if she's got more from us from the manga with this, but Macy and Nini had a thing at some point. I don't know if they were together, but there was definitely something going. Macy's undeniably got strong feelings for Nini, and there was one point when Nini is carrying Macy away from Bruno that she looks genuinely scared for Macy. And then they have that discussion of like Macy's crying, and then he's like, God, see, this is why I hate you, because blah 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 blah. And I'm like, was the spell broken that she's talking about their friendship or her love for her? That was one of the ways that my mind was going with it. And then the other thing was maybe like something to do with her parents as well, because she does say there, you and everyone else have no idea why the spell really breaks. The reason why the spell breaks so randomly is because it wasn't your own doing. So it feels like she's maybe blamed herself for something at some point, but she's now come to the realization of it wasn't my fault, whatever it was she was talking about. Naomi, any ideas for you?
Yeah. The only thing I'm seeing is that there is a slight difference with the words with the manga. Pretty much the context is the same, but it's just this end bit. You and everyone else have no idea why the spell wears off, but the reason it fades partway through is because the power was never yours. So she's not saying it's like she's not saying it wasn't your responsibility. She's saying it's because the power was never yours. You were just basically borrowing that power.
Interesting.
Yeah, I feel like that just has a lot more context into backstory that will come up hopefully later in the manga.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping for. I'm hoping that we're going to get it just a little bit more. Because yeah, I was like, there has to be something here with that. But the interesting thing, the thing that made me think it was maybe tied to Macy, not only because it's Macy she's talking to, is because at the very beginning when she's talking about fairy tales are such bullshit, she bumps shoulders with Macy at the very beginning as well. So like it is obviously Macy that drops her shopping bag that she bumps after she bumps into her. So I was like, is it something to do with her? But I don't know. Hopefully we'll get an answer to that soon, because that really freaking bugged the absolute daylights out of me. Any other manga and anime differences, Naomi?
Just the manga just goes into a little bit so much more detail about about dragons, and there's two types of dragons. There's light dragons and there's dark dragons. And dark dragons are the ones that are obviously the bad dragons that they need to conserve or destroy, that sort of stuff. Whereas the light dragons are actually dragons that help the reverse London and their way of living. So
that'll be the dragons that they use then, isn't it?
Yeah, so you've got the broom buggies, which is Marshall and Wordsworth. They're the little Wordsworth, yeah. They're the little brooms that Nini and Noel ride. But then you've also got ones that look like buses, so they use them for transportation, but they're only for witches and wizards. You've got ones that help with water conservation. You've got ones that help with plant conservation as well. So in the ending credits, you've got the scene of like these anthropomorphic plant pots.
Yes.
They're dragons.
Oh my god!
And they have the most adorable name. They're called planty potties.
Oh my god, that is amazing. Because I'd actually taken a note of them, because I was like, I don't know if Noel's just a fan of Japan, because those types of plant pots are not plant pots you would get here, but now it makes sense.
Yep. Speaking of Noel being a fan of Japan, she is. She is a confirmed Japanophile, I think is the word they used in the manga.
God, that sounds awful. That sounds like a Japan paedophile. Holy sugar.
But yes, so she knows everything. She actually makes references to the Eastern branch of the Soul Society.
Does she? What does she say?
Yep. In the one shot, they are conserving a dragon by basically they're cleaning up after it. And Noel says, honestly, I think they got the right idea in Japan. They just kill them all, no questions asked.
Wow. Heartless, but I love the call out to the Eastern branch.
Yeah.
Amazing. That's so good. I really, 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 really want to write a fan fiction right now, but like I can't because you said Noelle's what age is she? 17?
17.
Yeah, it's too young for me. I'm going to wait a couple of years. What age is Ninny then? Did we get Ninny's age? Because I thought Ninny was younger than Noelle, just judging by physical appearance.
Don't think so. Let me just double check. Unless she graduated school early, which you can do in London, but it doesn't actually. Oh wait, hang a sec. No, I don't think it does.
Okay.
Let me try and find something and I'll let you know.
That's cool. I just thought if it's not super obvious, then it's fine. But I'm guessing then she must obviously be older than Noel because we do get that thing at the beginning when their names flash up and then he says, I'm your superior. It's so interesting. That was another little sort of not mistake, but thing that wouldn't really happen here, where she was like, "I told you to stop calling me by my first name. I have seniority here." That's very much a Japanese culture thing. In the UK, the only time you would do that is if you were a really young student calling a professor like Mr. So and so or Mrs. So and so when you're at school, which I guess maybe it could be taken that way, but I didn't get that from the relationship. I get it as more of a working relationship. And no way at my workplace would I ever call my manager Mrs. Smith. She would kill me. She would throttle me. She would strangle me. She'd be like, "What's wrong with you? Like you're taking the Japan thing too far." So yeah, no, we just call even like really high up, like my director, who's my manager's manager. My director gets called Mark because that's his first name. I don't call him Mr. What's his last name? Yeah, well, there you go. There's your proof. So it was just another little culture call out that I had.
So here's a question about wondering what you guys think in the relationship between the Eastern and the Western branches of the Soul Society. I don't get the impression that anyone in Reverse London is dead.
I don't either.
Yeah, I was thinking that as well.
So then the question becomes, if they're all alive, first off, how do regular citizens get there and why are they there? And second off, what do they do with their dead? Do they have the equivalent of the Soul Reapers, or what do you
Good
think?
shout.
So as far as I'm aware, people in Reverse London are people who can see dragons. And the majority of the time they're born into Reverse London and they can see, that's why they're there. So it's a case of basically if you can see a ghost, then you are born in Reverse London, whereas if you can't, then you are born. That's why Macy is so rare, because she's one of the few that was born in Front London, yet can see them, which is why they've given her the name of a Watcher.
Watcher. I took a note of that. I've literally just pulled my notes up for that as well. Now you mentioned something, Naomi, about what was it? The levels. What were the levels called?
The dragon toxins.
Yeah, dragon toxins. So is that what Bruno meant when he said in the anime he said that Macy had high levels of mana? That was the word he used that I took a note of because it's not explained at all anywhere. He says she's got high levels of mana and she's a watcher.
I think that'd be a different thing. Like, I guess maybe mana is kind of like spiritual pressure in the Japanese branch, where you can actually like see hollows. If you have high spiritual pressure, if you have high mana, then you can see dragons.
Maybe.
Yeah, I'd say the same, because the dragon toxins is coming from the dragons themselves.
Right.
So the mana would be, as Shiki says, like the spiritual pressure, the spiritual power. Because mana in like Dungeons and Dragons or any of the RPGs is basically your magic points.
Right. Gotcha. You would think as somebody that's played Dungeons and Dragons I would know that, but I've obviously completely forgotten. Now, there was one thing that I did notice, and this came from this is just a really stupid call out, but I wanted to call it out anyway. So, you know, the gossip group, the realists, as they call themselves, the people that wrote a lot of the gossip
Yeah.
like things, articles and stuff. On one of the TV shows, when they're talking about it, they said that Macy was being replaced by a CG character, and then one of the other people
The
said the
Viewmans.
Viewman. Yeah, I was like, what the hell
Viewmans.
is a Viewman?
Yep. I have no idea. It's not explained in the manga.
Right. Okay. Because I'm like, okay, this will be interesting. Because I've not even heard of it. So if it's a real life thing, excuse me for being completely dumb. I've not even heard of it in real life, whatever it is.
Yeah, my best guess is like it's just virtual human.
Good
Ah.
guess. That is a good guess, Shiki. Let's take that until it's otherwise proven wrong. Let's take that as gospel. Are we going to talk about the fact that Bruno is a love child of Grimjow and
Barry and I were kind of talking about that during our
and
watch through.
Basby? Yeah, like I can't
Yeah.
tell if his hairstyle is a bit more Ishin in Grimjow or
Mm,
Basby in Grimjow, but definitely like the shaved side type look is a bit more Ishin.
hmm
But like I'm like he's the son. He must be somewhere the offspring of Grimjow. It must be. And then he ties that scarf around his face, and the scarf talks like a hollow mask
Yeah, I thought that
on
was
his mouth.
Yeah.
interesting. That was fun.
I don't know if that was just a call out or if we should maybe I'm just reading too much into that, but I'm like, oh, has he got like spiritual pressure? Is he like I don't know. But I just took a note of it. I thought that was interesting.
Speaking of Bruno,
Mhm.
I like the fact that the Magic Circle Core, colloquially named as inks, and they use graffiti to do their magic spells.
So good.
Graffiti magic. I thought that was so
Yeah.
cool.
Graffiti magic, that was like one of my favorite things I saw. I was like, I can get down on this. Like the guns, I'm like, okay, but like the yeah. And can we just talk about as well, right?
Mhm.
If we are comparing the spells to like the magic numbers to Kido, Noel casts a 75 level spell, which I would assume the numbers are the same as Kido, where the higher up you go, the harder the spell is. And that must have been quite a high. That was the highest number we got in the anime anyway.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see if they delve deeper into that because I can easily see Noelle being like a higher level up there person since she did seem to be important as well.
I mean, there was loads of stuff I loved. I loved so much about this. Can I talk
Mhm.
about one of the things that I wasn't keen on?
Go ahead.
Right. One of my biggest gripes, and this is storytelling in general, and I get that it's to set us up for the next whatever's coming. Right, I get that. But I also just fucking hate it. You've got a really OP enemy, and instead of the band of heroes that are meant to be facing it coming up with a solution to overtake it or kill it, you
Mhm.
have like this character that isn't even on scene stepping in last second to deliver like a killing blow. It felt it felt like, and I know this probably wasn't the way it was intended, but to me this is how it came across, was it felt like it was like the people were looking at their watches going, God, we got to wrap this up. How are we meant to do that? We've got too OP a character. Fuck, just bring somebody in and let them shoot it. And it just was like, it felt so
Very much so
rushed.
a Deus Ex
Yeah.
Machina.
Yeah, exactly, spot on. And I was just like, God damn it.
It was, yeah. I think it was supposed to come off as funny and humorous, but it just looked like looked like a cop out at the end.
Yes, spot on.
Mhm.
Absolutely agree. And I get that it's to set him up because I keep calling him the janitor because I don't know his name.
Thanks.
But Banks, right? Okay, thank you. Banks, he's obviously the son of a hero because that's exactly what Sullivan says about him when
hmm
she discovers a little hole opening and she puts her finger to it and realizes he was the one that killed Cinderella. She says, "Okay, son of hero." So I get that it's to set us up for him and his backstory, and he's obviously going to be a really potent character who's so above the law he can smoke indoors. But I just was like, it felt like a cop out.
I'm interested in that backstory
Yeah.
actually, because in the manga, at the end of the one shot, he actually gets promoted from Pipers and goes to Sabers, which is where Squire is the top horn of. But then he literally gets fired from Sabers and is back to Pipers within the next chapter. So, like in the gap between the one shot and the chapter one, he's been fired for not doing any work. Basically.
Oh, right, okay. I'm getting the feel he's a bit of a a Kisuke Urahara type character where there's a lot more to him than meets the eye, and we're going to learn it slowly over periods of time.
Mhm.
But I think what I like about Kisuke Urahara's character versus this character and how the differences are is that Kisuke Urahara would never have stepped in. He would have helped
Yeah, I was
from the
thinking.
sidelines without them knowing that he was helping them.
Yeah, what I would have preferred
Yeah.
would have happened would have been something like he stuns Cinderella or does
Yes.
something like to disable it so they can get the finishing blow.
Yes, spot
Yeah.
on. Absolutely. That's exactly what I have written down in my notes, is that would have been the preference, because he obviously done something to stun her because she just stopped moving and then she gets shot in the head.
Yeah,
So I
that's
was
because
like, it would have
that's what I
been,
was expecting. Is like, but then it was dead.
yeah.
Yeah. It's like they had this big reveal of the, like, as you said, the sword, and it's like, ooh,
Mhm.
I've got Excalibur, and then he doesn't actually get to do anything with it.
Or was it
He
Excalibur?
robbed Bal. I just said
Got it.
Excalibur because it's the only sword I could think of.
Okay, sorry, keep going.
So yeah, poor Balgo doesn't get his like moment of glory because some janitor 50 miles away
Yeah,
blasted a hole in a window. So
exactly. It just felt, I was just disappointed. I was disappointed with that. One of the other things that I want to talk about, and it ties into that, of course, because this is now us. We're like 44 minutes into recording. We're just bringing up the bloody dragon, like Cinderella, right? Cinderella is obviously based off of a fairy tale. Now, I done so much fucking research into the real Brothers Grimm version of Cinderella yesterday to find out what was meant behind the, like, she transforms or morphs in the moonlight and everything. I couldn't find any link apart from the losing the slipper, which apparently was meant to be gold in the original, and then the sisters, the evil stepsisters, cut off parts of their feet to fit into that. Anyway, it's a whole thing. I went through it all. There was nothing that really tied the dragon into Cinderella apart from just
the name.
yeah, that was it. That was all I could find.
They
But
yeah,
yeah,
they had that nice bit of symbolism in the first episode though, when they're on the clock
Mhm.
tower. And there's the stained glass window, and it looks almost Disney-esque. I don't know if like you noticed that the
yes,
colorings were
yep.
taken straight from the Disney movie, but that's not in the manga. That's an anime only foreshadowing.
There was a couple, I think there was a few moments of foreshadowing in there as well. There was one tiny little, and this is me really nitpicking, but we saw a lot of Toros head looking things in, like, in the pub shots and in building shots. You've seen a lot of them hanging on walls, and then of course that's what Bruno's wearing on his shirt. So it was almost like it was foreshadowing that this character is going to be really important later. So one of the things we spoke about the fairy tales. So you've got Snow White, and then you've got Little Red Riding Hood. You've got Mercury and the Woodman, which is also known as Golden Axe. You've got the Little Mermaid. You've got Hansel and Gretel. And then the one that took me ages to find was Band of Animals. And shout out goes to my little brother for this one. And it's called The Town of Musicians of Bremen. Bremen?
Ah.
That's the name of it. So it's, I think in some translations it just gets called The Musicians of Bremen. And in some others it's Town of Musicians of Bremen, but it is another Brothers Grimm fairy tale from Germany. Just one that never really fully made it over here. Although I do feel like I have seen a cartoon of it at some point, and it's about a donkey, a rooster, a cat, and a dog that get cast out from their farmyard home for being useless. And then they go to try and become musicians in this town of Bremen, effectively.
How many stories is that again?
So there was, let's count them: Snow White, Little Red Riding Hood, Mercury the Woodman, The Little Mermaid, Hansel and Gretel, The Musicians of Bremen, and then Cinderella. So that's 7.
I was about to say, because if it was 8, then we have just as many of the divisions for that as well.
That would have been a good call out, but no, it was 7. And it did say in the anime that there were 7, didn't it?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah,
I took
probably.
pictures of all the books when they were flying up on the screen just to try and get, because it was like, because the Little Mermaid was called Bubbles, and I'm like, what the
Yeah, I
fuck?
love the fact that it's called Bubbles.
So yeah, but I couldn't find any relation to molting in the moonlight or anything like that. Yeah, there was a moment in the chat, right? There was a whole bunch of us watching this together in the server. So I think, Naomi, there must have been about 15 of us or something, right?
Yeah, there was a
There's-
few of us, yeah.
There was a lot of people that weren't talking as well. There was one moment that just made me laugh so much, right? And I do want to talk about this, is why I don't like his character very much. But there was a moment where Balgo was on the back of the broom, the dragon buggy? Is that what they're
Broom
called?
buggy.
Broom buggy. On the back of the broom buggy with Noel, and we were all, everybody in the chat was like, "Oh my god, he's being really respectable." like he's being really respectful. Oh my god, this is the first time ever Kubo's done a male character in his position that hasn't been a creep. Literally, after all those messages came in from about 4 or 5 people, guess what happens? And it was like, then he's like, oh, if my hands just slide up and touch your boobs, and then she's just like, if I drop you from here, you'll die. And we were all like, oh wait, we spoke too soon. And it was like, it just brought up that thing of like, this is how you can probably tell that it's like an anime or it was written by Kubo. He's got like he feels like he has to bring in one of these characters. Like there cannot be a male character on the screen without there being a pervert aspect to them.
Yeah, Barry and I, we were like, it's like Balgo is Keigo, but just given a more important role.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's spot on, absolutely. Very Kegoi. And then another thing as well is how he portrays gays really annoys me as well, especially lesbians, because obviously we've got, is it Chizuru in
Yeah.
Bleach, yeah, how she's portrayed, and then of course you've got Macy going off the rails at Nini in this, and I
Mhm.
cannot confirm that Nini is or isn't. You know, I've got in my head canon that she does either swing both ways or she is gay, and just how over the top Macy is in that scene, and I'm just like, God, like lesbians aren't all like that. Like, come on.
Yeah, I mean, overall, it's just that I guess he was trying to play with the yandere character type, but I did feel like it was kind of, yeah.
But that's all literally everything that I've covered in my notes. What about you guys? You've got anything left?
Just the node to Bleach at the end. How
Mm.
the logo of Burn the Witch, and then they highlight the letters of Burn the Witch to read out Bleach.
Yep.
Mhm.
That was a nice touch. That actually happens in the first chapter of the manga, whereas it didn't happen until the end of the anime.
I did like that. I'm
That was
hoping
nice.
that means we get a bit of crossover at some point. Like, I'll be really upset if we don't. And actually, one of our members speaks about that in a little bit more detail. Because what we did was, for everybody listening, we got some feedback from some of our members yesterday about what they thought of it all, and we're going to go through a lot of that because I think that's us pretty much. Are we done with our discussions?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, Naomi, cool.
Yeah.
Well, let's come into our delving into the Dangai, where we're not only going to be passing off to Shiki for some updates, but we're also going to be talking through some of what our server members came up with. So, Shiki, take it away.
So for our news, we have confirmation that we are getting extended seasons of the Burn the Witch manga.
Woot.
It's so exciting. Hopefully we'll get backstories and
Mm-hmm. Yes, I'm totally looking forward to it. I'm definitely going to be reading this one.
I'm wanting it to be printed. I love nothing more than having the actual physical copy of Manga.
Definitely.
So I'm really looking forward to when it gets printed. Hopefully it does. Hopefully it gets printed and turned into English. It'd be great. But yeah, I'm really wanting this to do quite well. So that'll bring us into then our members.
So from Belle, we have Hiya. Honestly, I thought the animation was absolutely gorgeous, and Reverse London really captured the familiar architecture found in the UK, which was weird and wonderful to see animated. The characters were so much fun to watch, and you really got a feel for the dynamics of the different wingbind departments we got introduced to. Considering that it was only 3 episodes, that isn't an easy thing to do, but they clearly showed what helped motivate the characters whole, leaving enough unknown that desperately want to know more. And I'm sure you can tell from my new profile picture, I have a lot of love for Bruno. When I first heard about his character before I watched Burn the Witch, I was told he was a villain, but it was really great to see he was more fleshed out and two-dimensional than that. Looking at his character, from what we know, he could either remain an antagonistic higher up who gets in the way, or what I hope for, become almost begrudgingly a brother figure for Nini and Noel.
Shinny thought the anime was good. I like the change in aspects with the dragons as compared to Hollows, though I love both, obviously. The fairy tale references with some of the dragons was a nice touch. I hope they delve more into how the dragons turn dark and the connections between both branches of the Soul Society.
Spunky.
I think Burn the Witch is a great turning point for Kubo, drawing on the connection his fans have to the Soul Society, and giving us new characters and a fresh direction. The anime is well done and does a terrific job of bringing the manga to life.
And then we have Steve. The animation from the get-go was absolutely sublime. They really have put their hearts and souls into bringing the manga to life. Every character we were introduced to as a main focus felt unique and left me wanting more. Noel and Nini do a wonderful job at keeping us constantly engrossed in the world. The use of magic is much more varied in comparison to which Bleach counterparts, which always felt very lacking. The introduction of Macy starts to introduce a brief look into the past of Nini, just enough to keep us tied to the story while not leaving us questioned at why this character, Macy, exists. Balga is introduced as a dragonclad, and while not much information is given, we are soon led to realize the danger he is in when the Top Horns issue a contract to eliminate him. Speaking of the Top Horns, we get very minor introduction to each of the members, and oh boy, are we in for a ride when the Burn the Witch returns.
And then we've got a big section from Uni, and I'm just going to break this down here. Effectively, what Uni is saying is Uni's drawing comparison of the potential for Rukia to appear in Burn the Witch in the future. And the reason for that is we don't get a lot of Rukia's backstory. We also know that Rukia doesn't actually have a Japanese name. We have no idea that what her last name was before she was adopted by the Kuchikis either. We've got little things like that would make you think potentially she could also be of Western origin, like the size of her eyes and things too. But I think that can also be to denote youth in a lot of Japanese characters as well. So the larger the eyes, more youthful the character. I like where Uni is going with this because like Snow White, we get a whole panel of Rukia and it says Snow White above her in the manga at one point. I'm wondering, there might be something there. I mean, it could just be completely like we're just pulling straws out of our fucking arses. It could be that. But I do like the idea of Rukia potentially showing up in some way, shape, or form in the future. But I didn't know that Rukia wasn't a Japanese name. When Uni told me that, I had to go and Google it, and I was like, oh my god, she's right. It's not a Japanese name. Yeah, I think that's all I'm going to read out about it, because she does go into a lot of detail. Future Bleach. So she goes into a lot more detail, which is spoilers for where we are not in our watch of the series right now. So I'm not going to go breaking down absolutely everything that she said. But I do think that there's a strong chance, potentially, that Rukia has ties to Snow White or the dragon that could potentially eventually be Snow White. I just want more Rukia, so I'm absolutely all for this headcanon, to be honest. I'm absolutely all for it. And then we've got a couple of audio clips that we're going to insert right now. So we've got two of our members sent us some audio clips. So I think will we hear from Betty first?
Yep.
Okay.
To be honest, I wasn't sure what to expect from Burn the Witch, but it was pretty good. It was a lot more lighthearted than Bleach and gave off some different vibes, but the similarities were still there. Like, if Burn the Witch was to be continued, I'd like to see more of how society functions in the West Branch, considering all the corruption we deal with in our Soul Society. Of course, it's to be assumed that there's something wrong with, every society. No one's perfect. But just look at how they went after Balgo for being annoying. Well, I mean, killing people, but it was annoying. It's not his fault he's a dragon magnet. I mean, he didn't mean to hurt anyone. And that being said, it honestly sounds like something Central 46 would do. But there was so much that Burn the Witch opened up, and honestly, there's a lot more that could play out if it were to continue. We get thrown all these terms in such a short amount of time, and it would be nice if we had more of a in-depth display of how things worked and got more insight into it. I mean, reader interpretation is nice. Look at all the ships we have, but I'd love to see Burn the Witch continued. World building aside, I think we get a good look at everyone's character. Personally, I see an infinitely better version of Keigo and Balgo. Just like, imagine if someone with Keigo's personality got a power-up and was like a lot more relevant. Other than that, I found myself pretty invested in Noel. Specifically near the end, when she got all close to Balgo. That was kind of cute. She's so quiet, but is more than willing to call Bruno out, which I love, even though I thought it was more of a Nini thing to do. But seriously, this was great, and after watching it, I'm probably going to go on AO3 and look up some crossover fics. I don't usually do that, but, it's worth it. It was really good.
Right, so she draws the comparison of Keigo to Balgo as well, which was so funny. As soon as she said it, I was like, hee hee. But yeah, I see where Barry's going with this. That's really interesting. And I agree. Like can you call it crossover fan fiction really? Because it's not between two different universes. It's all set in the same kind of world. But I agree with Berry. I went and had a look to see where the fan fiction world of Burn the Witch was at the moment, and that's something that's going to be coming up in my fandom shout out.
Yeah, I did as well, actually. I went to AO3 and I looked. Yep.
You can tell that this whole podcast was created by a fan fiction writing Discord server. Was there anything else that Berry called out there you guys want to talk about?
I do really liked the relationship between Balgo and Noel that she mentioned in the end, because it was like a very sweet moment. Granted, quickly ruined by Osushi, but that in itself was cute.
Sushi is shouting, "Show me your panties!" Like we've not even discussed that, but
That
like,
was like
but
that was so
why?
wonderful.
Why? Like, how
It's
and
like
why?
it's like a parrot, like the
Yes.
random parrot that will swear in the middle of nowhere in front of your children for no reason.
He doesn't do that in the manga. Osushi is quite reserved at the end of the manga. He's behind a window in the house with the planty potties, and it's just Noel and Balgo who are hugging at the end.
Oh, so are
Aw.
they together then? That must be like, or is it maybe? Are we just seeing the start of something potentially?
I think he lives with her, because of the fact that she is conserving him, because he's more dragon than human at this point. So that's why there's the whole they have to conserve both Macy and Balgo. So there are scenes where they're in the house together and Balgo has to answer Noel's phone, and then he yells at him. It's fine.
Is it so? Do dragonclads become full dragons at some point? Maybe.
That would be
Possibly.
interesting, because that would be similar to like souls becoming hollows.
Yes, exactly. That was my
Yeah.
thought. And I'm wondering, just because they're talking about like conserving, and they've got like, I noticed it with Macy at the end of the anime as well, but Balgo, I noticed it straight away. He's got like a collar thing round his neck. And then Macy, when she shows up, has one as well. And I don't know if that's maybe just like a first level type uniform look. I don't know, but
Yeah, I think it's like identifies them as dragon clad, but I don't know if Shiki wants to go into any more details about collars.
that's what I was thinking. I was going to say, bloody Kubo fucking loves his collars, doesn't he?
I'm saving my pervy comment for the awards. So
Awesome. Right. Okay. Well, let's look at what Luca's got to say. I think Luca sent us one as well. His is a little bit shorter, so we'll play that now.
Burn the Witch is fantastic, and I would really love to see more. Particularly, I might actually want to get a Piper's Mantle at some point even. Though that should be relatively easy to make. What are your thoughts on the future of the series? I think that this could end up even introducing new fans to the Bleach series and hopefully getting a bit of a revival going on, aiding in community building, which is something that would be nice to see return. This coupled with the anime coming back.
Luca brings up a very interesting thought, where when people are allowed to go to conventions again and in person, I'm gonna bet we're gonna see a lot of Burn the Witch cosplay, especially with Pipers.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's a very easy cosplay to do, I think. But yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
We've got, I think as well, one of the things, because something that was brought up and just vaguely touched on was that sword Excalibur sort of appearing out of the, I know it wasn't Excalibur or the sword of Godric Gryffindor, but let's just pretend it was one of the two, appearing out of the pipe. Do we think there's maybe a reference to Arthur there, King Arthur pulling the pipe or being the only one to draw the
I feel
sword
like
out
there
of
has to be, because
There's got to be, right?
Yeah, because I mean it's set in the UK and everything, so there has to be like some point of Arthurian legend put into
Maybe
here, I would
that's our
imagine.
story, because you've mentioned there were 7 stories, but we've met 8 members of the top horns. So maybe the Arthur story is our 8th.
Ooh. Good call. Okay, that's definitely something to put a wee tab on. and return to when we've got more source material. Oh, that's good. Okay, so that was us having heard from all the members now. But yes, I really enjoyed doing that. Actually, I thought that was really cute to be able to hear from everybody else in the server. But that brings us into our Shinigami Cup Peroxide Edition. We are still doing it for Burn the Witch. And who wore it best? Shiki, do you want to take it away?
So for my who wore it the best, I have Balgo and the Piper Mantle. I thought it was just really cute and fun when he got happy wearing the same thing as Noel.
It was cute.
Oh, Naomi, what about you?
Mine's Balgo as well, but it's his facial expressions, particularly his bewildered ones, where he's just like this little scene where he's sitting in the corner looking all bewildered, or when he pulls the sword out and he's like, "What is this?" He's kind of adorable.
So my who wore it best, I've gone for Ninny in her outfit right at the beginning, her band outfit, because she looked like a side by side comparison of Yuri Plisetsky from Yuri on Ice. And I loved that angsty little teenage look that she had going on. I thought that was quite funny. Best ship then, Shiki.
Oh, okay. This is my pervy comment. The chimney sweeping the phone, because when he knows really how to look it. Although I will say, you don't think about a phone when a girl asks you to kneel down and lick something. Just gonna put that out there.
And this is why we're rated an explicit podcast, ladies and gentlemen.
Fun fact: he wasn't a chimney sweep in the manga. That wasn't like detailed enough to mention, but because you brought it up, it was his house and it was his window.
Oh,
There we go.
Wow. I love that. The anime obviously just wanted to add that little extra layer of world building in the UK. And it's so funny because the window I'm looking out of right now, I can see a chimney that looks just like the ones we saw on the show on the roof of like one of my neighbours across the street.
Mine is Balgo and his relationship with Osushi. Because it's just so cute. Like you don't see like he just dotes on this little puppy. And it's even more cuter in the one shot because he actually uses Osushi as bait to see Noel and see Noel's panties. But he you can see how much he loves that little dragon puppy.
Let's be honest, Osushi is the real star of the show.
Yes.
A lot of people are probably going to agree with that, to be honest. I did notice that, see the umbrella that he gives to Macy, which is the contact that she has that then allows her to see dragons.
Yeah.
The contact he gives, like the umbrella he gives says, "I love my dog" on it with a little picture of Osushi, the yellow umbrella. I thought that was really cute. My best ship, I've put Noelle in her sass because Noelle was hands down my favourite character out of all of this. The one-liners she has that she says with a completely straight face were just some of the best in the series. And that one where she was like, "You know, if I dropped you from here, you'd die, right?" Like, you know, that it just so well done, so well done. And then double take.
For my double take, I have Osushi being a pervy doggo because I had to like go back on my second watch through just to verify, was that Osushi who was saying that he wants to see the panties? Because I didn't realize that at first. I was thinking it was entirely someone else.
I guess
I'll admit, if it wasn't in the manga, I'm a bit annoyed they added it into the anime because I'm like, does the Osushi at any point in the manga talk and say, "I want to see your panties"?
the end of the one shot, I believe he does, but not when they're flying over London and destroying everything, and not at the end either.
Okay. Well, if it said at one point, at least then it's canon material. But I was like, that's such a random thing to add in if it was just thrown in there.
Yeah.
But that's fine.
But I believe it was because Osushi does have a voice actor. So I do think it was Osushi.
It was definitely Osushi. I was
Yeah.
just wondering, like, is it said in the manga? Is it canon material that he talks like that, or is it just thrown into the anime to be perverted? Like, be perverted. But that's cool. It's in the canon material. That's fine. I will take that. Your double take, Naomi?
Mine was when they're all flying away to get away from Ellie and Bruno. They're going past some windows, and in the windows there's different flags. You see a Scottish flag, you see a Welsh flag. So you actually see the different kind of national flags in the windows as they drive past. And I saw that at my first watch through, and I was like, "Ooh, Scottish flag!"
I know, and then that was you try to score back some Scottish points, see, after losing them earlier in the chat to me.
Yeah, I do feel like I need to redeem myself for that.
What? I can't even remember what it was I took all your Scottish points off of you for. What did you do?
It's because I said about Halloween.
Oh, that's right. How dare you?
But it's not the fact that I don't believe in Halloween. It's the fact that I don't like how Americanized Halloween has become. So
That's why I was saying take your clothes off and dance naked round a fire like the Pictish do.
yeah,
It's got to be on a
I
hill,
don't
though. It's
mind
got to be on a hill.
the fact kids don't even they just want sweets and they don't want tricks anymore. You ask a kid to tell a joke and they look at you as if you've got a second head. So
I always get them to tell a joke. They never get any candy from me unless they've got a joke.
exactly, yeah. So yeah, it's the Americanized Shiki Halloween that I don't like, but I like the fact that we originated it. So
Fair. Okay, fair.
yeah,
You need to go into Edinburgh to properly celebrate Halloween.
oh,
I
that would
think,
be
because that's
amazing.
where because they have all the dancers and everybody out literally topless at proper old school with the paint and everything on. They have proper Pictish hillside fires.
So what you're saying is I
Uh,
need to go over to Scotland for Halloween one of these years.
Yes.
If you want some really properly authentic Halloween experience, yes, for sure. Because they cleanse the streets of Edinburgh with fire as well.
That sounds cool.
Cool. And my double take was the whole fucking thing. Question mark. Because like I had to rewatch it all about 2 or 3 times. But if I had to pick a specific moment, it would have said Ninny's monologue at the end, because I watched that about 7 times trying to work out what the fuck she was talking about. Cool. And then in our fandom shout out saying, Shiki, what have you got?
So for my fandom shout out, I have a drawing from X Darknex from DeviantArt of Noel.
Oh wow, look at that. That's so cool.
I just love the fact that she's coming out of a phone box, which in
Yes.
the one shot is how she actually gets into Reverse London, because in the OVA, Ninny takes a photo of a coin using QR on her phone, whereas in the one shot, Noel actually does go into a proper British phone box and puts a coin, very Ministry of Magic, Harry Potter.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, it's exactly like that, and the phone takes her straight to the headquarters of Wingbind, and she just comes out and she's there. So that's really cool.
Yeah, it's very Harry Potter-ish, isn't it? I love the fact that at the side we've got Bleach spray painted on the wall.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And then Witch as
And
well,
Witch
which
as
is
well,
really
yeah.
cool. She looks great too. What a great piece of art. Cool, Naomi, what about you?
So mine is also a piece of art. It is by who are you with 2 U's on Twitter, and who are you again with the 2 U's on Instagram. And it is it's a really cute picture of Noel, Ninny, Balgo, Osushi, Wordsworth, and Marshall. And the shading is just amazing on this.
Oh wow.
Ooh, I like that a lot.
That's so cool.
And it's just such a nice picture of all four of them. I had to count them then. Well, 6 if you include the broom buggies. But it's really nice, and it's just really nice to see artwork out there already.
I know. It does present though the image of like how uncomfortable those broom buggies must be for a girl to ride. Just looking at the fact that it is right up her ass crack.
Yes. That's why I liked the one scene where Ninny's hanging upside down from it.
Yes. Just to be able to get some sort of comfortable relief from it, eh? But yeah. But yeah, I think that's going to be like, you would definitely need to wear padded underwear for something like that. So yes, so my piece, funnily enough, my bit of artwork, but my bit of fandom shout out is actually the whole 8 fan fictions currently under the Burn the Witch section of AO3, because at the moment there are only, I think, 8, or there was only 8 when I looked at it last night. There might be more now, but yeah, I want to give a shout out to the 8 fantastic people out there that have done Burn the Witch fan fiction already. Shout out to you guys, you're awesome. I think that's us, isn't it? Any last final thoughts? Anything else you want to say?
I really think that Burn the Witch, even standing on its own, is an amazing show, and I can't wait to see more content from it, because independent of Bleach, it's really a wonderful addition to the world of anime and manga.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I'm excited to see more from it as well. I want to see as well if they go outside of London, what a reverse anywhere else would look like.
Oh, that would be cool. If you do go
Yeah.
outside, just make sure you have dragon insurance.
Right, cool. Well, you wonderful souls, that is the end of another episode. If you like what you heard and you want to get involved, you can find us by searching for TheSeireitei on Facebook, Tumblr, and Instagram, and TSeireitei on Twitter. Each of these platforms will link you to our fantastically deadly Discord family where you can chat with us about the show, read fan fiction, take part in creative challenges, and talk anything and everything Bleach and Burn the Witch. Ninny and Noel might cultivate dragons, but we're hoping to cultivate some 5-star reviews, and that is where you come in. Jump on your broom buggy and fly on over to iTunes to rate us and review us. To those of you listening on YouTube, don't forget to be like, oh, Sushi, and give us that good boy pause up. We really appreciate it. Until next time, though, guys, bye.
Bye.